what is up everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today guys, I wanted to do a different type of video. I've done some horror movie recommendations for the month of October. I've done 2 of those, so go back and check those out. But today, we are going to hone in on a specific subgenre of horror and talk about specifically 4K discs for slasher films. I'm going to give you my top 10 slasher films on 4K. I just got to thinking about this. I was like, there's really been a lot of great slasher movies. I watched one in particular that may be in my top 10, so I don't want to go ahead and call it out. But I watched one recently. I'm like, there's just been a ton of great slasher films on 4K. So I wanted to highlight those here today. I may do another subgenre of horror, my favorite 4Ks of that genre later on in the month. I don't know. It depends on if I have time or not. But before we get into it, guys, I've got some honorable mentions. I've got my top 10. I am putting this in a ranking order, even though everything that I'm going to call out here today is great. Like, all these discs are absolutely fantastic. But before we get into it, like, comment, subscribe. If you got some great slasher discs, some 4K discs that you would like to recommend me that is not in my top 10, let me know in that comment section below. But let's go ahead and get into it. And I wanted to call out a couple of things before I started. First off, you're gonna see a lot of Halloween representation on this list. And if you're wondering, why doesn't Freddy or Jason have more representation on your list, Ken? It's because the freaking studios, Paramount, Warner Brothers, I'm calling you all out, won't release freaking 4Ks of those movies. Now, they do have the first Friday the 13th on 4K, but Jason, at least not the Jason we know and love, is not in that movie. And we don't have a single Nightmare on Elm Street movie on 4K, which is just ridiculous. We need all 7 of the original movies. We can do without the remake, but the 7 original Nightmare on Elm Street movies, we need them in 4K, damn it. And another thing I wanted to call out, I don't consider giallo films to be slashers, even though giallos are really mystery films that are also slasher movies. But I may do a separate list with the giallo films. So I didn't want to include them in this. So if you're wondering why some iconic giallo films like Tenebrae or Deep Red, movies that I love and I talk about all the time, are not on this list, that is why, because I just don't consider them straight slasher films. So with that all out of the way, guys, let me do a couple of honorable mentions here. And, well, I got 3. And speaking of, you know, Friday the 13th, I got the Friday the 13th 4K right here. I think this got way too much hate when it came out. I think this brought Friday the 13th back to its, like, more natural state. Like, I think this disc looks really good, and it's more reflective of what the movie actually looked like when it came out, instead of that super saturated, you know, 4K scan that Screen Factory did, which I also enjoyed at the time. But I just think this is, you know, my preferred viewing experience for Friday the 13th. At this point. So I think this looks great. You know, it's not a very well lit film, so it is very dark. But I enjoy the transfer. I think Friday the 13th on 4K looks great, but it's in my honorable mentions. Obviously, it could make my top 10. And I also got Halloween 4 here. And look, a lot of the Halloween films on 4K just look spectacular. And we've got 3 other ones in my top 10. I'll just go ahead and say that. But Halloween 4 really impressed me as well, because I did a straight jump from DVD to 4K. So I hadn't even seen this movie on Blu-ray, and I jumped from DVD to 4K, and I had never seen this movie like that before. I was just noticing things that I had never noticed before, and it looked great on 4K. So Halloween 4 I wanted to call out. And this Vinegar Syndrome title I recently watched, but Madman on 4K, was really, they did the best they could cleaning up this movie. There's some spotty, you know, sequences in the film that weren't like properly restored, but overall I thought it looked really great on 4K, and the Madman himself just looked spectacular. Some really great gore. So I wanted to highlight that. Madman on 4K looked really good. But let's go ahead and get into the best of the best, guys. My top 10 slashers on 4K. And we're going to start off with one I just did a review for recently, and I just had to include it. And that is I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, coming in at number 10. And I just think that Sony, you know, is just knocking these I Know What You Did Last Summers out of the park. We may or may not have another one in this stack. I think I kind of just clued you all into that will probably be further on down the list, but I Still Know What You Did Last Summer looked great. It had that tropical setting on the island with all the rain. It has Dolby Atmos. And also, just so you know, when I'm deciding on what makes the top 10 and what I'm ranking them at, I'm really focusing on primarily the picture quality, the sound, But of course, like the movie, my thoughts on the movie is going to creep in there as well. Like if I'm deciding between two movies, I'm going to put the movie that I like more probably ahead of the other one. But I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, I enjoy it. A lot of people say that this is a weak horror sequel and it's not very good. I don't think it was very well received when it came out, but I think it's pretty fun. It's not as good as the original, but I still think it's pretty good. But the 4K looks spectacular on that island with all the rain and Jennifer Love Hewitt in 4K. It's just like, you can't not put Jennifer Love Hewitt on 4K in your top 10 4Ks. It's just, I think it's illegal actually, but I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is a great disc. So that's coming in at number 10. Coming at number 9 is another 90s slasher, and this one came out in 1997. That is Scream 2. And I just included one Scream movie in my top 10, but you know, really all of them look really awesome. Like Scream 1 through 3, not talking about the newer ones because they're newer movies, so of course they're gonna look pretty good. They're shot on 4K for crying out loud. But Scream 1 through 3, they all look good, but this one to me, just when I'm thinking about it, really stands out amongst the three. So I put Scream 2 in my top 10. Just some incredible visuals in this film. I love the theater sequence at the beginning, but this one just really looked great. So I had to put that one in my top 10. That's coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, you may gasp when I pull this one out because this is one of the best horror movies of all time. Everybody loves this movie. A lot of people would say it's the best horror movie of all time, directed by John Carpenter. I'm wearing the freaking shirt, for crying out loud. Halloween on 4K from Scream Factory. Now, Lionsgate did a 4K, and that one looked really good too, but I do prefer the Scream Factory version. And what can you say? This is an all-time horror classic, and it looks the best it's ever looked. I grew up watching this film over and over again. I saw Halloween for the first time when I was like 11 or 12. VHS tape, I watched it forever, got the DVD with the TV cut, bought it on Blu-ray, bought it on 4K. So getting to see this film like this was just something that was truly special to me. And I still remember the first time I watched this on 4K. It just really stands out. I don't think it's the greatest 4K of all time. It didn't blow me away like Jaws did the first time I watched it on 4K, but it's still a damn good 4K. Looks awesome. And, you know, I love the way that Haddonfield looks in 4K. Just the fall leaves and the greenery of the neighborhood. All the stuff in the beginning just looks spectacular. So Halloween on 4K, had to put that in here. That's coming in at number 8. And coming in at number 7, I just watched this the other night, and I've said this over and over again. I'm sounding like a broken record, but Scream Factory really is on a roll with their 4K restorations. I just had to put this high up on the list because I thought it looked amazing. But My Bloody Valentine on 4K, guys, this comes in at number 7, and my God, this looks incredible. Absolutely amazing. I didn't think this movie would look that great because it does take place in like a mine, and that's kind of an ugly setting, but there are several sequences above ground in this movie, and some of the Valentine's Day parties and all the decorations and all the red from the decorations in the background and the outfits that the people are wearing and the actual blood that's in the little heart boxes. There's like hearts inside the boxes. All that stuff with that HDR and that Dolby Vision just really stands out. But the visuals themselves, like the actual, just the characters and just how crisp and clean it looks, like everything looks absolutely immaculate. Like what they did with Night of the Demons, they did with this, because this is a very dark setting in that mine, but you can just make everything out so crystal clear, so perfectly. And I just thought it looked great. So that I had to put this on the list. And this is what really inspired this entire video, was My Bloody Valentine. Because I was like, you know what? I've been watching a lot of really good slashers on 4K. I want to do a video about that. But My Bloody Valentine on 4K looks great. That comes in at number 7. And there's a lot of good features on here. They're older features, but there's a lot of good features on here. The sound was great as well, guys. I told you. And I really enjoyed the movie. That held up far better than I thought it would. Coming in at number 6, I've got a modern movie here, guys. We're not just doing all classic restorations. I have one from 2018, and you guys are gonna kill me when I put this above the original Halloween. But Halloween 2018, I gotta call out. This one comes in at my number 6. I remember this being one of the first like 4Ks I watched on my 4K TV and my new 4K player, and it really blew me away. And then the sound is incredible. I'm pretty sure this has Dolby Atmos. I love the score in this. It's my favorite. It's probably my favorite behind the original Halloween as far as Halloween scores. Like I think that John Carpenter coming back with his son doing the score here was just awesome. I love the music. The movie to me Doesn't hold up as good as when I saw it in the theaters, but I still enjoy the movie. It's probably my favorite of the new trilogy. But damn, it looked amazing. Just the white of Michael Myers' mask contrasts with the darkness of the background when he's walking around Haddonfield. And it's just a very cleaned up picture. Look, say what you want about David Gordon Green. He's getting a lot of heat for Exorcist and got a lot of heat for Halloween Ends. But he knows how to shoot a really good looking movie, because I think all of the Halloween films just look good from a filmmaking perspective and the cinematography and all that stuff. So all these movies look great. Halloween Kills looks great on 4K too, but I don't like that movie at all. But this one looks awesome on 4K, so had to include that on the list. Maybe I put it a little high at number 6, but I'm okay with that spot because it does look really awesome. Now, getting into my top 5, I had to give my good friend, my buddy, my friend to the end, some would say, some love with Child's Play 2 coming at number 5. I think that of all the Chucky 4Ks that Scream Factory did, this one certainly was my favorite. It just looked excellent. It was really that doll factory scene at the end with all the yellow Chucky boxes and just how you could make everything out in that HDR, just really enhancing all those colors. And there's just some incredible visuals in the second one, like him at the end when he's all like big and bloated and monstery. I just love it. The third one looks great as well. I think that 2 and 3 are probably the best looking Chucky 4Ks, but this one was definitely the standout, and it helps that it's my favorite Child's Play film as well. Getting to see this film like I never had before. The same thing with Halloween. I've been watching this movie since I was like 10 or 11. Loved it ever since. But yeah, this one was definitely the standout of all the Chucky 4Ks. Thought it looked excellent, so had to include it on the list. Child's Play 2 coming in at my number 5. Coming in at number 4 is another Halloween film, and you guys will probably be surprised that I put this one on top of all the Halloweens in my top 10. And I got 2 copies of this. I thought the transfer was that good. But Halloween H2O is coming at number 4. I thought H2O looked freaking so good. It was unreal. I did not expect this movie to look as good as it did. Kind of along the same lines of, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer and I Know What You Did Last Summer. They came out around the same time. This is often cited as the Scream Halloween film. Kind of took those influences of all the 90s slasher films at that time. But I will say I have not watched this transfer, but I'm pretty sure they're the exact same transfer. But I did watch the Scream Factory last year, and it just looks so good. That college setting, it's set in California, so it doesn't have that classic like Halloween feel to it, but it just looked great. Like the visuals were super cleaned up, super crisp, like all the facial details and stuff. The reds of the jackets from the schools just really stood out to me at the time. And, there's not a ton of like great kills, so there's not a lot of great gore in this, but just visually, from a visual perspective, like it looked fantastic on 4K. Super cleaned up, super crisp. And I really think of all the Halloween films on 4K, this one looks the best. So Halloween H2O comes in at my number 4. And let's get into my top 3. Coming at number 3 is a classic, an all-time classic horror film that you guys will probably be happy to see made my list, because some people go back and forth on whether or not this is a slasher or not. Some people seem to think that slasher started with Halloween in 1978. That is not the case. There would be no Halloween if it wasn't for this film. This is 1960 Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which I believe is absolutely a slasher film. He kills multiple people in this film. And yes, it's kind of a psychological horror film as well, but it is very much a slasher. Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, he's gutting people in the movie. He's freaking slashing them with a knife. What other, criteria does this movie need to meet in order to be a slasher? I don't even know if anybody really argues that or not, but I feel the need to defend this movie's merits as a slasher movie for some reason. But let's get into the actual 4K disc. Such an incredible 4K disc. I've said this over and over again on this channel as well, but black and white just looks amazing to me in 4K. And this is one of the best, absolute best black and white 4K transfers that there is. It just looks so clean, so crisp. Like it looks like an A24 film that would come out like, today in black and white, or whatever film would come out today in black and white. It looks that good. It doesn't even feel like a classic film when you're watching it. Like it feels like a movie that was just filmed like on a 4K camera and just released in the theaters, and they put a black and white filter over it. Like, that's how good it looks. But I just love the contrast between the blacks and the white and what the HDR does to really enhance and deepen those blacks and just what it does to the whites and the grays as well. But just a perfect 4K transfer. I can't say enough good things about Psycho on 4K. Coming in at my number 2, I already talked about the sequel in this franchise, but I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think this is one of the best 4Ks of 2022. It blew me away when I watched it. Sony does not miss with their transfers. They do quality releases over and over again, time after time. Every time that you know that Sony's putting something out on 4K, you're like, oh God, I can rest easy because I know it's going to be a great 4K disc. If it's your favorite movie and Sony's putting it out, like Fright Night came out last year and looked amazing, you can rest easy. You know it's going to look amazing. But this is a movie that came out in 1997, and it just looked incredible. And like I said, Jennifer Love Hewitt in 4K.
What are you waiting for, huh?
That's enough to bump this like 5 different slots. Like, this would be in number 7 without Jennifer Love Hewitt. But with Jennifer Love Hewitt, it goes all the way up to number 2. But yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's not my personal favorite slasher movie of all time or anything. I do like it. I've grown to like it a lot more than I used to, but you can't take anything away from this 4K transfer. It's just incredible. Absolutely one of the best and a top 4K recommendation from me. And it also was in Dolby Atmos as well. All right, let's get into my number 1. I bet you're wondering, what's my number 1 slasher movie on 4K? I got to give some love to this movie and this release from Scream Factory. It came out over the summer, and it blew me away and really made me realize that, damn, Scream Factory has really upped their game with these 4K restorations, and that's The Burning on 4K. This was amazing. And if you didn't like Friday the 13th on 4K, this is a slasher, a camp slasher movie that's set almost entirely in the daylight. So you don't have that issue of, you know, the nighttime sequences and you can't make stuff out. This is all in the daylight. It looks amazing. You can see the greenery of the trees and the grass and the blood and the gore. You can just see everything so vividly, so vibrant. And there's sequences where, you know, the villain Cropsy is set on fire and all that stuff looks amazing. Cropsy himself looks amazing. Facial detail looks incredible. HDR, Dolby Vision, crystal clear picture quality. Like I said, it's all outside. Just that outdoor setting just looks incredible in 4K. So that was enough, you know, to put this one over the top. And the Blu-ray of this came out in 2013. So this was one hell of an upgrade by Scream Factory. So I just felt that, you know, I don't feel like I'm hearing enough people talk about how good this transfer was. So for that reason alone, I felt like I need to bump this all the way up to number 1 to make you all realize that you're missing out if you don't get The Burning on 4K, because it's just an immaculate, perfect 4K restoration. I can't say enough good things about it. So there you have it, guys. That's my top 10 slasher films on 4K, and I highly recommend all of these discs. I don't have all the prices off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that all of these are still available. I will link the Amazon links down below in the description. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you want more lists like this, definitely let me know in the comment section below. I can do possession films, I can do giallos, you know, I can do all kinds of stuff. Ghost story movies, whatever you guys want, let me know in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.